How U.S. satellites spy on the world. The sky of the early Cold War was a dark mirror, reflecting fear, ambition, and a hunger for impossible sight. From the ground, nations glared upward, wondering who would claim the heavens first and reshape destiny. The United States trembled at the thought of hidden missiles rising beyond distant horizons unseen. In secret rooms with dim lights, engineers whispered of an eye in orbit that could pierce the Iron Curtain. They named the dream Corona, a fragile craft meant to capture truth from heights no human had ever reached. Its first launches were failures, tumbling wreckage swallowed by clouds while hope cracked silently. Yet each failure carried a fierce longing, pushing teams to rebuild what fear insisted must succeed. Every technician knew the stakes, for blindness in this era was as dangerous as any nuclear spark. The capsules returning from space fell into the Pacific like tiny coffins of film and ambition. When the first unblurred image surfaced, hearts beat with awe at landscapes never before revealed. Mountains, runways, and secret silos emerged from grainy shadows as if history unfurled its hidden pages. The Cold War suddenly felt less like a guessing game and more like a story written in captured light. Still, triumph carried a strange chill, for to see everything meant bearing the weight of knowing too much. Across Washington, analysts leaned over photos, tracing shapes that could shift the balance of the world. They studied lines of metal, trails of earth, and patterns of silence where danger preferred to hide. Each revelation arrived with awe wrapped in dread, the kind only truth can carve into the human spirit. The people who built Corona rarely spoke publicly, living between pride and the burden of secrecy. Some felt they had raised a shield for their country. Others feared they had opened a door too wide. Above them, the satellite drifted like a lonely sentinel, circling in quiet devotion to its mission. In its orbit, it saw borders dissolve, showing a planet that looked united even as it braced for conflict. Every pass over foreign lands reminded the world that nothing on Earth could remain untouched by watchful skies. The images returned were not merely intelligence. They were fragments of a world unaware it was observed. Yet this new vision did not end wars, nor calm politics, but it changed how leaders calculated every breath. History had gained a new narrator, a machine whose silent lens translated rivalry into revealed truth. Those who held the photographs felt as if they were touching the pulse of an anxious and divided age. The dawn of orbital surveillance illuminated secrets once buried under smoke, distance, or deliberate lies. But with each revelation, a question whispered across command centers and long corridors of power. If the heavens could watch us so clearly, then who, in the end, could claim true privacy below? Corona marked the beginning of an era where the sky itself became a realm of hidden contest. The world had entered a future where vigilance lived not in trenches, but in the cold vacuum above. And, in that quiet, high solitude, America's first orbital eye opened wider, seeking truth and fearing it. From the moment the first clear images returned, the world beneath the orbiting lens could no longer hide. Conflicts that once thrived in shadows now flickered in silver tones across classified viewing tables. During the tense days of the Cuban crisis, satellite frames revealed missiles sleeping beneath thin roofs. Analysts studied every contour, knowing a single misread line could tilt history toward irreversible fire. War planners felt the cold truth that distance no longer protected secrets once buried under foreign skies. In Southeast Asia, jungles whispered as orbital eyes searched for trails carved by unseen divisions below. What soldiers could not witness through monsoon haze, the satellites traced with patient mechanical focus. Their images captured ghostly outlines of roads, depots, and sudden movements shaping the war's rhythm. In the Middle East, deserts glimmered like ancient scrolls opened by light descending from the heavens. Armored columns carved into the sand were mapped quietly, their intentions guessed long before battles began. To diplomats, these images offered clarity, yet to generals they delivered an unsettling form of exposure. Every conflict became a stage lit by a silent spotlight drifting hundreds of miles above mortal struggle. Nations realized that war no longer belonged solely to those carrying rifles, but also to watchers in orbit. The photographs returned to Washington carried not only data, but the heavy scent of geopolitical tension. Some frames revealed vast airfields swelling with aircraft. Others showed vanishing convoys at dusk. Interpreters learned to read landscapes like pulse lines, guessing what lived, moved, or plotted within them. What the satellites revealed often contradicted official claims, turning diplomacy into a contest of truth. In quiet offices, strategists debated how much the world should know, or whether knowing was dangerous. For each image decoded, another mystery emerged, hinting at plans buried deeper than any camera could reach. The more the satellites illuminated, the more nations rushed to conceal themselves beneath elaborate veils. Camouflage, decoys, and underground facilities multiplied as if the Earth itself feared the celestial gaze. But still the orbital watchers continued, tracing every pattern, migration, construction, and disappearance. Some analysts describe the feeling as reading a diary never meant to be opened, yet impossible to ignore. For them, the grainy frames often carried whispers of approaching storms no radio broadcast predicted. Military leaders began to accept that victory might depend not on brute strength, but on hidden awareness. Thus began an age where intelligence became a battlefield, and visibility a weapon wielded without sound. The satellites turned nations into reluctant performers under an unblinking audience drifting above them. Each pass revealed anew how fragile secrecy had become, even for powers wrapped in steel and ambition. And, though the images promised safety, they also stirred dread, for too much clarity could spark bold moves. In this uneasy balance, the orbital lens shaped alliances, deterred missteps, and quietly rewrote strategy. By the end of the decade, no general doubted that the heavens had become a theater for silent competition. The world was learning that surveillance did not merely observe history, but pressed its weight upon it. The shift from silent images to captured signals marked a deeper transformation in the hidden craft of watching. What began as simple observation evolved into quiet listening, a new frontier where shadows carried voices. Satellites tuned to faint transmissions hovered like patient hunters, gathering whispers drifting across continents. Engineers spoke of SIGINT as if it were alchemy, turning stray pulses into secrets that shaped global decisions. Receivers aboard these orbits caught murmurs of encrypted plans, military drills, and diplomatic unease. The world below continued speaking, unaware that every signal released into the sky risked being intercepted. Within undisclosed command centers, analysts gathered around glowing screens decoding meanings from static. Patterns emerged like ghostly signatures, each carrying clues about intentions buried behind guarded borders. Echelon rose quietly, a vast listening net stretching across oceans, linking allies under veils of secrecy. It sifted through calls, radio bursts, and digital fragments, seeking anomalies that hinted at unfolding danger. Some insiders felt it granted divine sight, while others sensed it trespassed into realms once considered sacred. As capabilities grew, moral tension thickened, for hearing everything meant bearing responsibility for silence. There were nights when analysts questioned whether vigilance had become indistinguishable from intrusion. The more they listened, the more they realized that information could wound as deeply as any weapon of steel. Whistleblowers later revealed glimpses of this hidden architecture, igniting global debates over privacy. Governments denied, deflected, or justified, yet the whispers only confirmed what many had long suspected. Citizens around the world learned that modern life radiated signals impossible to shield from hungry receivers. Some felt betrayed, others felt protected, and a few wondered if the sky had become a vault for stolen thoughts. Diplomats struggled to negotiate trust in an age where every promise risked interception before it was spoken. Even allies sensed unease, for shared intelligence often came wrapped in invisible obligations and quiet tension. Satellites now acted as archivists of global conversation, preserving echoes that history was not meant to keep. Their data streams expanded into labyrinths of meaning, where truth lay hidden among overwhelming noise. Artificial filters and early machine logic tried to tame the torrent, yet misinterpretation always lurked nearby. The slightest error could suggest threats that never existed or overlook dangers preparing to unfold. Thus, the Watchers lived in a state between certainty and doubt, shaping policy with information half understood. This era revealed that control over signals meant control over perception, a power both coveted and feared. Nations raced to encrypt deeper, to mask transmissions behind codes that strained even the most advanced ears. But no encryption lasted forever, for every wall created an incentive for another mind to break through it. The unseen duel between protection and penetration became a silent war waged without banners or battalions. Above all, SIGINT proved that conflict had migrated from trenches to the invisible architecture of the ether. By the time the world recognized this shift, surveillance had become woven into the very rhythm of modern life, and the satellites, drifting in cold solitude, continued to listen, gathering truths no one had intended to reveal. The dawn of the new millennium brought a shift so quiet that even seasoned analysts struggled to grasp its weight. Satellites no longer served merely as eyes and ears. They began to think, interpret, and reveal patterns unseen before. Artificial intelligence crept into the data streams, turning oceans of imagery into stories whispered by machines. Where humans once sifted endlessly through frames, algorithms now traced movements with eerie precision and calm. Every cloud shadow, every shifting convoy, every architectural change became a clue sensed by tireless circuits. The orbiting Watchers grew sharper, capturing landscapes in clarity impossible during the era of grainy film. Commercial satellites joined the skyward ranks, blurring lines between state secrecy and private curiosity. For the first time, ordinary citizens glimpsed the power once locked within vaults of intelligence agencies. Images of distant conflicts surfaced online, revealing truths that governments struggled to shape or contain. During tense days in the Middle East, analysts watched as AI detected buildups long before diplomats admitted fear. In East Asia, secret facilities expanded in patterns readable only to machines trained on decades of archives. The war in Ukraine later showed how satellites could narrate conflict in near real time for the entire world. Villages, trenches, convoys, and fires appeared like chapters written across fields under the silent orbital gaze. This transparency felt both liberating and terrifying, for clarity often carried consequences beyond intention. Journalists, researchers, and citizens now witnessed events once hidden behind the curtain of official reports. Yet with each revelation came unease, as if humanity had stepped into a mirror that reflected too much truth. The Watchers in orbit no longer belong solely to nations. They belong to the age itself, woven into daily life. AI models predicted movement, estimated supply chains, and revealed preparations no satellite once discerned. Strategists realized that their decisions might be exposed before they were even finalized behind closed doors. Privacy, once a comfort of distance, dissolved under the relentless accuracy of machine-enhanced observation. Some countries raced to counter this new vision, building decoys, underground cities, and deceptive heat trails. But concealment grew harder, for AI compared past and present, sensing inconsistencies like a historian of the sky. In quiet rooms of power, leaders debated whether such clarity protected peace or quietly fractured it. The more the world witnessed itself from above, the more fragile illusions of secrecy became. AI turned the orbiting lens into something almost prophetic, reading intention where humans saw only terrain. Researchers marveled at the capability, yet whispered about a future where machines understood conflict too well. For the first time, humanity confronted the possibility that surveillance might outgrow the hands that built it. The satellites drifted in their silent arcs, guardians and judges alike, chronicling a planet forever exposed. And, as nations stared upward, They sensed that the story of intelligence had entered a chapter of profound uncertainty. This era marked the moment when the line between knowledge and omniscience blurred beneath the metallic glow. In that dim crossing, the world stepped into a future watched not only by machines, but by the echoes they created. As satellites multiplied across the heavens, the sky itself seemed to pulse with awareness beyond human reach. Nations gazed upward, knowing the age of secrets had thinned, leaving only fragments hidden in shifting shadows. Each orbit carried not just data, but the echo of decades where surveillance shaped choices and prevented ruin. What began as fear during the Cold War evolved into a permanent architecture woven around global existence. Leaders debated the price of such clarity, wondering whether security had quietly devoured the essence of privacy. Diplomats whispered that transparency was power, yet too much exposure could fracture fragile alliances. Citizens questioned who truly commanded the silent watchers and who decided what remained unseen or revealed. The heavens became a contested realm where obedience, suspicion, and ambition drifted in uneasy formation. AI amplified these tensions, offering insights so sharp they cut through illusions once considered unbreakable. Analysts felt as though they were reading the planet's diary, penned unknowingly by billions of living souls. Every movement, every spark of conflict, every shifting border became a reflection caught in orbital memory. Yet the clarity came with haunting weight, for understanding everything meant confronting consequences of truth. Some experts warned that omnipresent vision might push adversaries into darker, more unpredictable strategies. Others believed exposure deterred miscalculation, preserving peace through relentless celestial vigilance. Thus, humanity stood between fear and faith, choosing neither completely as the satellites circled above. The sky grew crowded with machines that watched without rest, weaving stories from patterns of light and heat. Where generals once commanded with maps, they now faced predictions sculpted by algorithms beyond intuition. History had gained a new witness, one that did not forget, distort, or forgive, but simply recorded and revealed. In quiet halls of intelligence, veterans wondered if the watchers had become mirrors reflecting human nature itself. Every orbit reminded the world that power no longer flowed solely through armies, but through perception. And perception, once shaped by rumor and diplomacy, now bent under the weight of near-perfect observation. The people below walked beneath constellations that did not shine but listened, measured, and remembered. Some felt safer knowing danger could be seen. Others feared that nothing sacred remained untouched or unseen. The debate grew heavier as surveillance expanded, stretching from government to corporations to private eyes. Humanity asked whether a world without shadows offered peace or merely replaced fear with a gentler illusion. Even the watchers questioned their mission, sensing the lines between guardian and intruder slowly dissolving. Above them, satellites drifted like pale sentinels, each carrying memories of crises survived and truths exposed. Their presence whispered that the future would be shaped not just by nations, but by those who mastered vision. The sky no longer felt empty. It thrummed with intelligence, vigilance, and a quiet promise of revelation. And still the world looked upward, searching for reassurance in the silent glow of machines tracing endless arcs. But the heavens held their own counsel, guarding mysteries carved in metal and coded thought beyond human reach. As the final frames of this era come into view, one truth remains: the Watchers have changed us forever. For in the realm where light meets shadow, the greatest secrets are not what satellites see, but what they choose to keep.